Can dystopian fiction serve as a wake-up call for society? What would you do if faced with a totalitarian regime like in Trumerica? What are the psychological effects of living in a society where everything is controlled? Those questions and more will be explored in this episode, a conversational deep dive into Chapter 3 of the novel, From Trumerica with Love, by Logan Emery Emerson. And From Trumerica with Love is a modern retelling of George Orwell's 1984 as reimagined in a current-day version of America ruled by leader for life, Donald Trump. Here is Sharna and Damien's conversation.
So we're diving into the world of dystopian fiction today. And specifically, we're looking at Logan Emery Emerson's From Trumerica with Love.
Yeah.
You know, it really takes Orwell's 1984 and throws it into modern day America.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that really struck me was how Emerson just throws us right into the thick of it. We meet Liam, the main character, and he's stumbling home from some kind of rally. He's totally out of it.
Yeah, disoriented, his memory's hazy. Sounds like he had a bit too much to drink too, maybe.
Right, right off the bat, we're feeling the same confusion and fear that this society is soaked in. It's like we're in Liam's head, and it's a pretty messed up place to be, honestly.
It's intense. And then there's that diary entry, the one where he keeps writing, Donald Trump must die.
Yeah.
Over and over. It's chilling.
Oh, totally. And it's not just some throwaway line. You can feel how much those words mean something to Liam. It's like they're eating away at him, you know?
It's more than just some guy ranting about politics, though, right? It feels like there's something darker going on in his head.
Definitely. You hit the nail on the head there. That diary, it's almost like a lifeline for Liam, but it's also terrifying. It's like his only outlet to express this rage against the system, even if those thoughts themselves could get him in huge trouble. Kind of reminds you of Winston Smith in that diary in 1984, right?
Yeah, for sure. Both of them, Winston and Liam, stuck in these worlds where even thinking the wrong thing is a crime.
Yeah.
And the way Emerson writes about the peace police, it's like this constant weight on Liam, this feeling that he's always being watched.
Yeah, it's like that other shoe that's about to drop, that feeling that getting caught is just a matter of time. And what's terrifying is that in Trumerica, they don't just punish you for stepping out of line, they make you disappear, like you never existed.
It's a terrifying thought, and it makes you wonder, how far away are we from something like that in the real world? But then, just when you think it can't get any more intense, Liam's writing takes this sharp turn. He writes about wanting to assassinate Trump, the leader for life, and that's when someone knocks at his door.
Oh man, talk about a cliffhanger. Your heart just stops. Suddenly you're right there with Liam, feeling that fear, not knowing who's on the other side of that door. Could it be the peace police?
It's such a simple thing, a knock on the door, but Emerson uses it to create this incredible sense of dread. I was hooked, absolutely hooked, and I had to know what happened next.
Yeah, that's Emerson for you, always keeping you on the edge of your seat. But it's not just the suspense that got to me, it's the way he creates this whole world, this Trumerica. It's more than just a backdrop, it's like this oppressive force, almost like another character in the story.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like Trumerica is closing in on Liam from all sides, squeezing the life out of him, and using Donald Trump. I mean, talk about a bold move.
Right.
Taking this figure who's so familiar, so real to us, and making him the face of this dystopia.
Yeah, it's definitely a choice, right? But I think Emerson's smart about it. He's not trying to make some big political statement, like for or against Trump himself. It's more like he's using Trump as this symbol, this way of tapping into all the anxieties we already have about power and politics.
Right. It's like he's holding up this funhouse mirror to society, just distorted enough to make you uncomfortable.
Exactly. And that distortion, that's where the real horror comes in, because it makes you question everything, like how easily could something like this happen here? How far down that road are we already?
Which reminds me, we should talk about the book cover.
Oh.
You see that? The giant eye watching over everything, and then Trump. He's like this tiny figure underneath. It's like, who's really in control here?
Whoa. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But you're right. It's like the cover is hinting at this whole other layer of power, something even bigger and scarier than Trump himself.
Right. Like maybe Trump is just a symptom of a much deeper problem, a system that's gone off the rails. And that ambiguity, that's something Emerson plays with throughout the book.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Liam and his internal struggle.
Absolutely. Because even though Liam is living in this oppressive nightmare, there's still this spark in him, this refusal to completely give in.
It's like that line he keeps writing, I'm going to assassinate the president of Trumerica.
Yeah.
It's such a raw, desperate act, but there's this defiance in it too.
Right, like a last-ditch attempt to reclaim some kind of agency, even if it means risking everything.
You know, when you think about it, it's kind of wild how often these dystopian stories zero in on these like individual acts of rebellion.
Right.
It's like, how much can one person even do against a whole system?
Right, but that's the thing, isn't it? It's not always about like actually taking down the whole system single-handedly. It's about holding on to that little spark of defiance, even when everything seems hopeless.
It's like they're clinging to their humanity, you know?
Exactly. And that's what makes it so relatable, right? Because we all have that instinct to fight for what we believe in, even when it feels like an uphill battle.
Yeah, totally. Like, remember that Margaret Atwood quote, something about freedom to and freedom from?
Oh, yeah, love that one. It's like in these dystopias, the characters are fighting for both, aren't they? They want to be free from our oppression, obviously, but they also want the freedom to just be themselves, to think their own thoughts.
Like those freedoms are two sides of the same coin. And it makes you wonder, why are we so drawn to these dystopian stories anyway?
That's a good question. Maybe it's because they force us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our own world, you know?
Like looking in a mirror, right?
Yeah.
But the reflection's kind of warped and disturbing.
Exactly. Like we see Trumerica, this over-the-top version of America, and it makes us think, hold on, how far off is this really? Are we going down that same path?
And that's a scary thought. So maybe these books, they're not just warnings about some imaginary future. Maybe they're about the choices we're making right now, today.
Right. Like a wake-up call saying, hey, pay attention. This is what could happen if we're not careful.
Well said. So to kind of bring this all back around to From Trumerica with Love, it's clear that Emerson's given us way more than just your average political thriller.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there's suspense and intrigue, but there's also this depth to it, this exploration of what it means to be human in the face of just totalitarianism, you know?
Totally. It makes you think. It stays with you. And that ending, man, leaving us hanging like that.
Talk about a cliffhanger. It really makes you wonder what you would do in Liam's shoes, right? If you woke up in Trumerica tomorrow, how far would you go to fight for freedom? Would you risk it all? Or just try to keep your head down and survive? It's a question worth thinking about. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into From Trumerica with Love.
Logan Emery Emerson's dystopian novel, From Trumerica with Love, is available now from bookstores everywhere. Join us for the next episode, a conversational deep dive into Chapter 4 of this reimagining of George Orwell's 1984. In that episode, Sharna and Damien explore questions such as, what happens when a simple diary becomes an act of rebellion? Thanks for listening.